Hey everybody, Rachel Lutowski here with Jeff Ertl. And today we're talking about a very important concept, one that recently has become a really hot topic with leaders of organizations everywhere. Jeff, you and I have been discussing with our clients and our colleagues the importance of resilience, agility, and mental toughness in times of adversity. And you've spent a number of years coaching around these skills. Would you take some time today and share with us some of the important components of mental toughness and how important this is right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Rachel. And hi, everybody there. So, the first thing really comes to when you think about resilience, agility, mental toughness, how do you define that? And one of the things that we've been able to do is through using an assessment, and some of you've heard of the Hogan assessment before, we've done some modifications to it or some customizations. And we've actually got a model on what's included in resilience, agility, and then mental toughness. And so the question really is, if you understand what those components are, can a person change some of their subcomponents of this to be mentally tougher, for instance? And the answer is, yeah, you know what? And so let me just share a little bit about the mental toughness model. And one of the key areas in this mental toughness model is something called emotional regulation, right? And, that kind of just makes some sense, like, yeah, it's probably important. And then there's a couple of sub-factors. And so let me talk about two of the sub-factors. One of them is volatility, right? And of course, you don't want volatility during, times where there's a lot going on like this. So we actually want to reduce volatility. And then empathy is another of these emotional regulation things. And of course, you want to increase your empathy in times like this, most likely. And so the question people are probably asking is, well, can you coach that stuff and can you do it fairly quickly? And the answer to both of those is, yeah, probably. And it really depends on two things. One, what we call attitude, and the second, aptitude. First is, does the person want to make a change in that area? And then the second is, do they know what to actually change, right? And that's where the assessment really can come in, because we can help them really understand what that component means and what they can do differently in the workplace starting right away.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks. So let me talk coaching though, and I always talk about coaching through 4 steps: assessment, awareness, alignment, and then action. And so obviously the first part, assessment, we do this Hogan assessment, we look at this. And then the awareness piece, and I'll talk about this through an example of one of the clients I have. And so we did this assessment, and one of the things that we found out was that he was very low on empathy, right? And so that was his awareness. And we spent a lot of time, and he was surprised, right? And I know a lot of you probably watching this are like, really? The guy was surprised? But yeah, you know what? It's very common for people to be surprised about these things. But anyway, as we got in and did some more digging, what we did was he came to understand what empathy was and some ideas about how to change it. And then he aligned on the fact, I am going to do some things differently. So, one of the things, and I'll give a couple examples of some of the feedback he got about low empathy, right? And so to help him understand in that awareness phase, and I'm going to read a couple of these, but, he got feedback. He's the smartest guy in the room, right? He also, was able to quickly assess situations and then make bold proclamations, which cut off other people, right? He did another thing that was really tough. He criticized people and their ideas very, very publicly. And then lastly, he was a pretty sarcastic guy. So you can imagine, those around him clearly saw some behaviors that were like, not empathetic. And when he came to realize, look, I need to do something different, we aligned behind some new behaviors for him. And so in his case, he said, look, I'm going to ask questions first before making statements or proclamations so that I can understand the perspective of others prior to making decisions on my feelings known, right? And that made a big difference for folks. So he wasn't the first guy speaking up. He chose, and I love the way he wrote this one. He said, I'm not going to give criticism in a public forum. I'm going to take difficult conversations outside of the meeting. And then, of course, he put in parentheses, whenever possible. And, you know, as a coach, I'm like, well, you know, I think it'd be best if you never did it. And he's like, no, I got to have that in there. It's got to be a whenever possible. Great news is he never needed to use that. He was always able to take it outside, and it was a big help to him. And then the last thing he did, he asked what he called real open-ended questions, right? He didn't ask leading questions. And then what he did was he paraphrased whatever he got from somebody so that he knew that he really understood it. So, you know, the question from a coaching standpoint is, can this changes happen quickly? And the answer is yes. So I've seen situations where we target this and in a few sessions are really able to help someone. And then, of course, what I would say is longer term typically helps to work with a coach a little bit longer so that you don't backslide. So,
Right.
Rachel, anything you want to add or ask?
How long did it take with this particular person for him to start making those changes? Because I know certainly your last statement has to do with changing habits and ensuring that those habits continue, those good habits continue. But after he had decided those two particular focus areas, how quickly was he able to implement that for himself?
It was amazing to me, and it's a great kind of story. So within about a month, it was a massive change. And so, and the way I know that is, we came up with what he wanted to work on, and he went and started doing it. And as part of a longer term coaching process, I'm a big believer in this stakeholder-centered coaching process where you share with other key stakeholders what you're working on and asking them to support you in that, right? With feedback, feed forward. Anyway, so I'm in the stakeholder meeting with him where he's sharing with folks, and you know, it's a typical meeting, and all of a sudden, one of the I think it was the chief marketing officer. Yeah, it was the chief marketing officer said, you know, I don't know why you're working on that anymore. You've already changed that. And I mean, my jaw just dropped because this guy had really strong behaviors before. And then somebody else pops up, another VP in the organization, and she says, yeah, and you know, the other thing, you've become the most reasonable person in these meetings. You used to stir up stuff all the time, and now you're like the voice of reason. What's happened? So yeah, it can happen pretty quickly. And again, it goes back to that, what I call attitude. Do you want to change? And if you do, these are just behavioral changes that need to be made and then reinforced.
That's fantastic. Hey, thank you so much for sharing that story with us and talking with us a little bit about mental toughness. It is such a critical factor. And we'll be chatting a little bit on some other videos about resilience and agility, which are two other factors that we find to be really critical right now. I want to share with all of you just a quote. I'm a big quote and inspirational person, and I found one from Raymond McCauley, and it says, change what you can, manage what you can't. You like that one, Jeff?
I like that.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Fits right in with our topic today. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.